I don't think anyone realizes kind of what's going on behind the scenes. And it's not about posturing. It's just about we know that the ship must continue to go. It must arrive to its destination. We must be in this place where we have to have a mindset that regardless of what's going on, we have to continue moving forward. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. Thank you for joining me today on this special day of Memorial Day, where we get to, really thank the active members of our military, those that have served and those that have died for our freedoms. And I'm just happy to be here with you today, and thank you for joining me. I know you have a lot of things planned, maybe with your family. You're out on vacation, so congratulations there. But I do want to have a conversation, and how to prepare to be great. And one of the things that I do on a weekly basis, and I'm going to let you in, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put that little, cliffhanger there for you. I'm going to let you in on a little disagreement that I had with Carla over the last week. And we didn't talk for about 2-3 days. We didn't talk for about 2 or 3 days. And I'm going to tell you what we learned from this, where we grew from this, and where my thoughts actually went, and I think that anytime we face disappointments, challenges, frustrations, we tend to go towards the worst, right? We tend to go for the easy out, the I want to quit, I want to get out of here, like the what's the point type of mindset. And this happens not only in marriages, especially when you're pushing the envelope. For those of you that work with your spouse, and even marriage in general, for us, we're both moving at high speeds. We're pushing the envelope daily, mentally, physically, emotionally, as parents in our marriage, as business partners. It's tough. Sometimes we're at that edge, right, where there's just a lot of responsibility, and we're constantly just trying to push and grow. And one of those things, it happens at some point. You are going to snap. And in this case, we both snapped, right? We were just like, this is done. We need some space. This is overwhelming. It's not going anywhere. And it all started with, just a simple conversation that kind of went, off plan, to say the least. It went off plan. And next thing you know, it's like we're talking very disrespectful towards each other. Not ever to a point where we're cussing or any of that nature, but it's just, being condescending towards one another was part of that conversation, or part of that argument, right? And so we were like, okay, let's just create some space. We weren't prepared to work anything out at that point. And that's what happens again when there's a disagreement or a challenge. Again, with business, right? Whenever you lose a deal, it seems like everything's just going to fall apart. It seems like, the next deal might fall apart. And you were really riding on that transaction, and now your plans are not going to go as you planned or as you saw in your mind. And for us, we had a lot going on. I mean, there's some deadlines that we have to hit this week, and the pressure is on. And again, we just clashed last week, and we spent a good 3 days just not talking to each other. Just really the minimum as we could is exactly what we did. Now, we both worked out of the office. I don't think anyone realizes kind of what's going on behind the scenes. And it's not about posturing. It's just about we know that the ship must continue to go. It must arrive to its destination. We must be in this place where we have to have a mindset that regardless of what's going on, we have to continue moving forward. And sometimes creating that space is necessary. And I'm going to read a little bit of what I do to try to get through these negative thoughts that initially come when there's a disagreement, when there's something doesn't go my way. Because once you buy into these thoughts, this negativity, it just gets worse and worse, right? The situation gets more dire. My ability, and I'm just going to speak for myself, and maybe it's not something that you feel, but I feel, being human, a lot of us go through this roller coaster of emotion, or these thoughts that one thing just leads to another, to a point where you're like, what's the point? I don't even want to do this. F it all, right? F it all. I'm walking away. What's the point? And I've been in that position many times with this business, with this organization, with this brokerage, as a business owner, many times. And the same thing, I can't say that I haven't thought that in my marriage, because I have. I have. And this was more prevalent many years ago, right? Where every argument, every disagreement always led to, all right, it's divorce time, or maybe we're not meant to be together. Like it's not going any good. It's not improving. And I'm disregarding all the steps we did take to improve, all the steps we did take to get to the point where we were at. But in that moment, it's like your thoughts are clouded, your mind is clouded, and this dark cloud looms over, and everything is negative in that space. Everything is negative. And that's exactly where I was at. And I can't say the same thing for Carla. Carla's just going to continue to move forward. She's going to do what she needs to do. And I think we're both kind of conditioned ourselves to go ahead and be in that format. But it does affect us, right? If you're not on your game with your marketing, if you're not returning phone calls, eventually it's going to affect your business. Whenever we don't do the right thing or make the highest choice for ourselves, it's going to affect us down the line. Well, I think that this was just it made itself known in this agreement because there's some things that we did put in the back burner. Being so busy, we didn't spend a lot of time together. Just because we're working together doesn't mean we've spent a lot of time together, right? So this was going to boil over. At some point, it was just going to rear its ugly face, right? Where, hey, like if you don't start putting the same intention towards every aspect of your life, right? And we talk a lot about health. We talk a lot about, business, and we talk about relationships and purpose. If we don't put the same amount of effort, it's going to rear its ugly head where the consequences are going to, appear. And in this case, I didn't realize, and I think we both didn't realize that, our time together was taking the back burner. It was truly on the back burner because, again, we just had so many things going on that we just didn't spend enough time together. And whenever you start thinking about whenever there's disagreements at home or whenever there's disappointments in the business, it's because we lack something. We forgot about something. We're not doing something. And, in every relationship, I've mentioned this, hundreds of times, I think everyone seeks the same thing: love, respect, and appreciation. So when that's not there, of course, it's going to create some problems. But I want to go ahead and share a little something that I wrote down because I've been reading this book named Conversations with God. And, it's something also that I've gone with my coach where, we have to analyze our thoughts and our emotions and our actions. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck there. And when you're stuck there for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it really erodes any type of progression that you've made in your life. It almost like recoils faster than what you were able to build. And that's the last thing I want to do. Now, these fights with Carla and I, with these disagreements or these arguments would last in our marriage many years ago, like 2 weeks, a month and a half, where we're just ignoring each other altogether, where she's sleeping in a different bedroom, where we're avoiding ourselves altogether. But what I liked about, this situation is we've grown from that. We know that sometimes we do need that space, but we need to be able to be in our own thoughts. We don't need the influence of the other person telling us what we think they should do, right? She doesn't need me to tell her what I think she should do and where I think she was wrong, and vice versa. I think the space that we create today is for us to analyze our own thoughts and our own behaviors and quit blaming the other person, because that's so easy to do. And as a matter of fact, let me go ahead and rewind a little bit. We were actually supposed to be taking a trip out to Vegas this past weekend. I planned it all out. We were supposed to, we had our hotel, our flights, we had dinner reservations, we had a show to go to. And our disagreement happened on Monday, so I put that all in the back burner, right? We agreed that, hey, this is not a good time. Because the last thing we wanted to do was to force ourselves to be in a situation, in a place where we weren't on the same page. And I'm going to let you in on a little something. Our worst fight or disagreement happened in Vegas many, many years ago. So that's always on the back of our minds, right? We're not going to go into a situation because, again, back then we were holding on to a lot of things, a lot of resentment towards each other, a lot of unhappiness. And when we got there, it was just the biggest blowout. It was bad. It was bad, right? And so this time around, we were like, wait a minute, we're not in the same page and going to a place where we have these really bad memories, although there was a lot of good times, but it's this one specific moment. That was the last place we wanted to be, right? Was to try to hurry up and make up or not say what needs to be said for the sake of just going to something that we planned. So right away, I went ahead and canceled. She requested it. I agreed. We canceled, and we just said, okay, let's just play this out. And we needed those 2 additional days to really just analyze our thoughts, right? Because a lot of what we were disagreeing about wasn't necessarily about us either, right? So not only do we have the pressures of the business, but it's not, and just life in general. But I think in marriages, we think it's about the other person. No, it's just, there's some parts to the marriage, right? There's some parts to the relationship that need attention. But, when you have that much frustration, it's not just because of the marriage, right? But yet we point all our energy towards that. So that's where we both were at that time. And so I spent a couple days, just being in my own thoughts, still going through the process, right? I still need to show up for my businesses. I still need to show up for my kids. And this is some of the stuff that I wrote down. And if it doesn't make sense, I do apologize. It just makes sense to me, right? But I was able to go ahead and analyze my thoughts and put a better foot forward in trying to make this work, right? And again, I'm just going to read you what I have, and it's up to you on how you want to interpret it, right? But my goal is to always be loyal and grateful and always be in my marriage, right? So when you hear certain words, it's not that I'm thinking about going outside my marriage, but when you think that there's an alternative to your marriage, when you think that there's an alternative to your business, you have 1 foot out the door, right? Every time you question yourself in your business, you have 1 foot outside the door. You're not all in. You're not all in. And every time you think maybe this is not a relationship I want to continue, because these are thoughts, right, that we all think about, you're 1 step outside your marriage. And those are critical points in a decision. Those are critical points in your life, because you could either feed one part or the other, or you can course correct, right? So here we go. Let's see, where do I start? All right. Okay, so I started, just writing out my initial thoughts. I am hopeful, but doubtful. I am grateful, but sad. Sometimes I can't even read my own writing. I know where I want to go, and I know I want more, but I don't know if I can take more. Have you ever been in that situation where you want more for your business, you want more out of life, but you don't know if you can take more, right? You feel like you're at capacity. So that's where I was at. I want God to know that I appreciate my life and that I know that this is just a moment in life. But living in this moment brings a lot of frustrations and doubt. Right? And sometimes when we're in this space, it's like, I don't want to feel ungrateful. But when my business brings me challenges, but when my marriage brings me challenges, me as a father brings me challenges, it's like, I want more, but there's a part of me that sometimes thinks that I can't handle more. And I start doubting myself, right? So I wrote this: Dear God, I want you to know that I know this is just a moment for us. I know that when I see outside of my marriage, I don't put 100% in my marriage. I become critical and I become dissatisfied. And that's exactly what I'm doing for my business. And when I'm looking at others, I do just that. I become ungrateful and dissatisfied because I'm looking outside of my marriage. I'm looking outside of my business. I'm looking outside of what I have. I will recommit to staying focused on what I've created and what you've blessed me with. I will go in making sure that I'm able to use all the skill sets that I've learned over the years and the knowledge to make the impacts and the moves in the direction that I should be in. Right? And I mentioned to you, it's not that I'm looking to find another relationship. It's not like I'm looking to build another business. And I always bring those two things because those are the things that bring the biggest stressors in our lives, right? Relationships and business. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, like your business is on your mind like 99% of the time, regardless of where you're at, and regardless of what you're willing to admit, our mind is in our business. So I whenever there is problems in those arenas, it brings a lot of frustrations. And when I see outside of my marriage, I don't put 100% into my marriage. Means, again, I'm not looking for relationships outside of it. It's just like I'm looking for solutions to quit or for, steps to be like, what's the point? And when I do that and when my mind's there, I'm not all in. When I start to question and doubt my business just because the market is not working, just because we haven't grown as fast as I would like to grow, right? Doesn't mean I continue those thoughts, because as I do, I'm 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So we have to check ourselves sometimes where these thoughts are going. So here's a revelation that I got. It's time to make moves. Just get back on your game. You've had a moment to think. You've had a moment to talk. You've had a moment to reflect and appreciate. Now you must talk. And you must be patient, show empathy and commitment. Not saying that things. Carla's not saying things because she feels. She's saying things because she thinks that you feel it. All right, so let me read that again. And I'm sorry, again, I'm just reading off what I have here. Carla's not saying these things because she feels it. She's saying these things because she thinks that you feel it. And again, that's just my interpretation of what was going on. I have to show her my commitment. I have to show her that I'm in no matter what. And the reason she has my daughters is because you have doubt. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't read my writing. Sometimes when you write, it's tough here. But I'm gonna try to interpret it here. And the reason you have doubt is because your thoughts are outside of where they should be. Okay, so I kind of butchered that there, right? But again, it made sense to me in regards to where I needed to go. The reality is, it's just I needed to just recommit. That's it. I didn't even make this worse. I didn't need to continue to go down this hill rolling out of control, right? Of where my thoughts were going. All I needed to do was to look at my thoughts, to actually analyze my thoughts, and correct my actions. I needed to recommit. That's simply it. It doesn't mean that it has to get worse from here. It doesn't mean that that's the end of your business. It doesn't mean that that's the end of my marriage. That's where my thoughts wanted me to go. I just needed to recommit. And when you recommit, you prepare to be great. That's what separates you. That's what makes your life functional and happy. And that's exactly what we did. So we both created that space, and we put ourselves in a position where we had to talk. Okay? And for us, usually it's in a car. Like the greatest revelations is when we're stuck in a car, and we almost like are going to be there to kind of talk about our frustrations, let out our frustrations, right? And just listen. And this is where we get an opportunity so she can let and express herself fully, where I just sit there and listen. I'm not trying to counteract her thoughts, because her thoughts are her reality and vice versa. I can't say that that's false, because if she believes it, it's true. And if I believe certain things, she can't say that that's false because, well, I'm believing it and it's true. But we could put all our cards on the table and sit there. And it's uncomfortable sometimes. But we were both in a position where we wanted to have that uncomfortable conversation. And there was a lot of things that we realized. There was a lot of things that we needed to be more aware of. Sometimes the way we speak to each other. The way we need to appreciate one another. We're both moving at high speed, and I realize that. We're both pushing the envelope in everything that we do. And sometimes the frustrations outside of our marriage are going to spill into our marriage. But it doesn't mean that is the cause of the demise of our marriage. So we did that. We had a conversation, and we had a lot pent up that we needed to discuss. And we did. And we saw each other's viewpoints. And there were some things that I need to be aware of, and vice versa. At the end of the day, love, respect, and appreciation is all we're looking for, right? In your relationship, If you're not in the same page, that might be the thing that you're seeking. So where can I show those things? And not expect her to necessarily show it to me all the time. And guess what? It's going to happen because she has things outside of the business that may be frustrating her or may be challenging to her. And again, vice versa. But it was almost needed to go down this route because, come Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we had the greatest time together. We felt at peace with one another without feeling that resentment that was pent up for weeks and even months. We were there present, and it felt so good, and our daughters were able to join us. And that's something that they would have never done with us in Vegas. So we were able to just enjoy a lot of time together over this past 3 days. And it was great. Like we both talked about it. It was probably the most fun we've had in a long time. And it's because we let go and we were able to be real and raw and honest with one another. And I think that as long as you're honest with yourself, as opposed to thinking that it is the demise, it's like, are you putting your thoughts in the right place? And are you following up with the right actions? Or is one foot out the door? And anytime you doubt, anytime you question it, then it is going down that path. And all we need to do is recommit. Guys, thank you for listening to me about, my personal life sometimes, right? I think we all need to be able to express that. And I hope that you're able to take some nuggets from this to apply with whatever challenges you're facing, whether it be in your relationships or in your business. My job is just to be as candid and as raw and real with you as I'd expect you to be with me. So guys, I hope you have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your holiday weekend, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.